Hello everyone and welcome to Blue Tengu's live game development show where we show everything that goes into making a game from concept to completion. If you've ever wanted to make a game, we hope this will help lower the barrier to entry, maybe give you the nudge needed to try it yourself. Stumbling over my words here, don't have don't have the coffee power kicking in enough to compensate for a lack of sleep, but I'll do my best to keep going. Even if you don't want to make a game, we do hope you'll find some entertainment value in what we're doing here. All the information about where you can find us is in the Twitch info down below or off to the side in the bar there. Or on our YouTube profile if you're catching us later, but just in case, we're at www.bluetengu.com, btengu on Twitter, youtube.com Blue Tengu Studio for those of you watching the live stream with me now, and Twitch TV Blue Tengu for those of you watching YouTube later, where you can catch past episodes, but you shouldn't have any trouble following along even if you haven't seen them before. For those of you who haven't seen this show before, my name's Eric. I'm a game designer living over here in Japan who's trying to show you everything that goes into making a game for about 2 hours a week, including all of the ums and ahs and awkward debugging moments that pop up. The reason I'm showing it all as opposed to making the game first and scripting out rehearsed tutorials with different themes and whatnot is because I do want to lower that barrier so many of us feel towards making a game, and I hope inspire you to go out and try it yourself or stick with it if you're already doing it. I think breaking it up in themes is okay if you know exactly what you're looking for, but if you just kind of want a general picture of what it takes to make a game, then this should help. If you're here with me on Twitch, feel free to drop suggestions or ask me questions at any time. May not be able to answer them right away, especially if the chat gets going, but I'll try to get to them. And if it seems like I missed one, please send me a private message, leave a comment on our site or YouTube video, or send an email at eric@bluetengu.com. Eric with a C, and I'll do my best to address it next time. If any of you are out there making something and you don't mind showing it off, send me a link to your stuff. I'd love to see it. Links are enabled in Twitch, so feel free to post it there too. Please don't go spam me with it. At this time every week for 2 hours I come on to Twitch TV to develop a game, which for this week, or for the season, not this week, I've been working on it a lot longer than a week, is Project Spaghetti, which is a top-down 2D cowboy shooter where the bullets bounce around the screen with the pinball mechanic. Thank you to everyone who dropped by last week and to all those who watched the video on YouTube. Last week I tried out 2 bullet reload mechanics to help speed up the action for the player. Before it was just waiting around for one bullet, and you got one bullet and you'd have to wait around for another one. Wanted to get rid of that stuff, get rid of that waiting. Still have both of those mechanics in there just to play with them for a while and see which one kind of works out better with the system and keeping the game interesting. Oh yeah, and I also added a few new levels to the graveyard area. But today we'll keep going with those mechanics, and today it's going to be giving the player an option to skip to a different level. Well, more than a level, an area. Like I've had the town area, the graveyard area, things like that. I have to stop calling them levels now because they actually have levels within them, so area. Get used to that. So, gonna have a level skip mechanic. Don't think I want to just have it straightforward where if you beat the boss you're able to just jump to that level, that area from then on. Might want to do something a little more spelunkified with it where you have to actually unlock it with some action on your own, but may not worry about that for now. I think I'll just get the unlocking system working and let's see, get the unlocking system working and get the actual level selection screen working. So let's jump over to the task list over at Trello. So jump to the desktop. And it looks like both PandaBits and Decent Scrimp are in here with me, so that's cool. Let's see. And PandaBits is asking a couple of questions about going to Japan. I've been here a long time, and I've lived, well, Decent Scrimp would know. He was here too. Lived in both the eastern side of Japan and the western side of Japan, so I've got kind of both areas more or less covered. I guess if you're interested in like Tohoku and Kyushu and other islands and places like that, may not be as knowledgeable, but should be at least enough to get you some settled here. If you have any questions, let's jump over to Trello. Before I go into this week's episode, I'll go over what I've done since last week. Overtime, looked into a couple of like coordinate problems, like the player specifically. The player was getting stuck Yes, this was a big thing. Pandabits helped me out with this last week. The player was getting stuck but wasn't because of this, so this is a separate issue. It's this. The player was getting stuck if they were injured near like a bumper object, because when they would get up, then suddenly they couldn't move. Figured out that it was a collision issue. The problem was the collision was being set to a different value in the Hertz state. I'm not sure exactly how that happened. Probably just forgot to resize the collision boxes or whatever. So what would happen is, well, let's illustrate exactly what happened, because this will be a problem for a lot of people, I'm sure. You've got the sprite here. Hopefully it looks better than that in your game. And you have like a collision box like this. What was going on with me was, alright, you've got a barrel here, which has its own collision box. And as horrible as this drawing is, hopefully it does what it needs to do. If the player tries to move into the collision says don't behind the scenes, which is fine, that works great. The problem was when the player got hurt, they would be on the ground, they'd have the stars going on their head, and then they'd stand up, and they'd have a different collision box, which was bigger. So what would happen is this, which in itself is not a problem, but some of the logic I have to prevent players from, running into solid objects is to say, if there's a collision event, then push the player back in the other direction. Problem with this is, because they were overlapping enough to kind of go over that, there was no place to move the player, basically, so they would get stuck. So that was that. Got that fixed. The graveyard boss, do have it actually working with 4 bells now. That was one thing. Still thinking about it a little bit, but speaking of bosses, just mentioned this yesterday, but coming over to bluetengu.com, boss fight considerations. This is the graveyard boss. Basically, all the bosses are just giant versions of the smaller ones to kind of keep it retro. With the ghost boss, more or less have it figured out where you have to ring all 4 bells at once to get it upset and be able to shoot it. The only problem still left is to make sure that the player knows that mechanic's in place. Like, they might ring a bell and think, what's going on? Because up until now, they've only had to ring 1 bell to shoot ghosts. So I have to figure out some way to convey that to the player. That's still kind of left. The desert boss, giant scorpion, that's going to be a tricky one to get implemented. But basically, the other bosses I'm still kind of considering at the moment. So that's that. If you're interested, you can head on over to bluetengu.com and see that. But at least the graveyard boss it's working. It's just a matter of figuring out a way to convey that stuff to the player. Also, added some secret level stuff. Wink, wink. Yeah, there's going to be secret levels in the game. I'm not going to say where they are or how to access them. But there are secret levels. And I'm probably going to do like some music special later where I maybe just do like the theme for the secret level to kind of show how we make music in Linux Multimedia Studio, because this will make a good example for that. And I might go over like a little bit of that today, but just to show what it is, but just to kind of have something to look forward to. But you can kind of see what's going to be in the secret level if you come over here to Trello. Also, got the sound effects. Like before on the stage where there were a lot of cacti everywhere, actually the stage Pandabit suggested, who's here in the chat, if you'd fire once, all the cacti would shoot out. And because there were so many sound effects at the same time, it just sounded horrible because they all kind of crescendoed off each other. So I did do something to prevent the same sound effects from playing too many times. At first I just did it by saying if the sound effect is already playing, don't play it again. That's the easy way to do it. It's not very good though to do it that way, because again, it's a player attention thing. If the player's attention is on, go back to handy paintbrush. If the player's attention is on, say, this coin, for example, this looks awful. Let's Let's put a little more work into this. Even if it is paintbrush, I have to put a little more work into it. Okay, let's say there's these coins here. They've come out with a sound effect, so they're making noise, and a new coin pops up while these things are still like making sounds. The thing is, the player is going to be focused on this because it's new. If these sound effects are playing but this one doesn't start playing, it sounds like there's a bug. So what I did instead was I played the sound effect for this one and canceled this one. So it always plays the most recent sound effect. That should work. Try it out for a little while, see what happens. Not much more I can do than that. It's either going to be one or the other, pretty much, unless I come up with a full-on like sound system. You could theoretically take a lot of memory and just constantly be like kind of managing your sound and saying, okay, only allow this one to play like 3 times. This one's playing twice, so it can play 1 more time. You know, you could do something like that, which would probably be the most robust way to do it. And I also filled out the other levels besides the graveyard level. You know, filled in the the graveyard area levels. Filled in the town stuff, the desert stuff, the snow stuff, the alien stuff. So now there's actually 4 levels per area, and also the bats. Last week when we did it, to cut down on the number of bats, I was just removing some of the bat spawn nodes, but instead of doing that, what I did was I kept all the bat spawn nodes in those 4 trees and actually have the bat, you know, randomly spawning if there's not going to be 4 bats in the stage, just to make it a little more interesting. Otherwise, the bats are always coming from the same trees. So that's that. Talk about today's episode, and then before I jump into GameMaker, I'll catch up to the chat here. Today is going to be all about level selection. Pick an outhouse leading to different levels. This is going to, whether you know what the outhouse is going to depend on whether you were here for the episode with the ending, where the player kind of walks to an outhouse, gets in, and then like the enemies show up and line up outside. Basically, I figured, you know, it's kind of a goofy thing, but makes the game work in kind of a funny way. So kind of like that outhouse. So what I did was I did design different themed outhouses. You'll see what I'm talking about when we go into the game, but because there's a door, it's rather convenient. So you're going to have a stage with different themed outhouses, and whichever ones you go into are going to be the area starts. And they'll just have a lock on the door if you can't go into that area yet. But that's that. So I'm going to go over to GameMaker and then try to catch up to the chat here. I think you guys have been talking, going into some pizza stuff and other things as well. So let's see if I can catch up to the chat. And PandaBits mentioned, to make it clear that the ghost is affected when all 4 bells are rung, have an intro scene like your tutorial. That's a good idea. That is a very good idea. There we go. PandaBits for the win. Maybe probably won't do it today, but Boss Ghost intro for the bell system. Yes, that is a very good idea. Because that would cover it. You just have, you know, you could have like an opening. It doesn't even have to be a tutorial. It just has to be an intro sequence where the ghost is showing up. All 4 bells like ring for some reason, and the ghost gets angry. And then maybe give the player their first shot at the ghost. You know, give them a freebie, for example. Then once the ghost is hit, then the bells stop ringing, and then the player has to do it all themselves. That's excellent. Thank you. Brilliant. Brilliant. Doing this stuff live is awesome. Yes. And Decent Scrimp asks about the bats in the game. Do the bats appear with a grovelly voice that says, "I'm Batman"? They should. No, that'd probably gets old pretty fast. And PandaBits responding to the Yahoo train thing. You can Google Translate through. I'm sure there's an English site. I'll find a link for you if I can. But let's get into it. Jumping off there, jumping into GameMaker, which is what I'm using to make the game here. Let's show you where I'm at. And by the way, GameMaker, some people like it, some people don't. I like it a lot because, you know, doing a whole game by yourself, you can do a whole game by yourself in Unity as well as Unreal if you want to. They've both come a long way. They both have 2D options. They both have a lot of support and a big fan community, especially compared to GameMaker, for example. They're much more major, obviously. But one of the things about Unity and Unreal is because you can do so much with them, I think a lot of what happens is because you have so many options, there's so much you can do, so you kind of bite off more than you can chew, etc. It's easy to do that in those systems. With GameMaker, you're kind of limited to just the right amount of stuff you can do, so it's hard to bite off more than you can chew in GameMaker. And obviously, some great games are made in it, but you have limits, obviously. It's designed for 2D games and things like that, so if you want to make a first-person shooter, you could probably jimmy the engine and do things with it to get it working in GameMaker, but why would you do that? It'd be just better to use Unreal Engine. So to go through the game here, this is the town stage. There are now, let's see, there are now 4 stages to it with varying degrees of difficulty. The barrel configurations, the number of enemies that come out, how fast they come out, how fast they shoot at the player, those are things that gets a little more difficult as time goes on. Obviously, this is going to have a lot of tricky corners and stuff, so when the bullets get bouncing, it's going to be harder to predict where they go, which makes this a little more difficult. This is the graveyard stage. Speaking of the bells, what you have to do is you have to ring the bell to kill ghosts, and those are the bats that come down. And they should spawn in random trees here, because there's only two bats at a time here, so they both spawned in those right trees. Let's get out of here before I die. And to make this more tricky, ringing the bells is going to be a lot trickier here, because you have to get kind of right next to the bell and ring them, and then your bolt's going to come bouncing back at you. So this is a trickier variation, and this is an even trickier variation of that, because the bullets are going to be bouncing inside of these little corridors here. And whoops, beyond node count. Oh, okay. Do need to fix that. Quick on the fly debugging here. Let's see, beyond node count. Okay. Yeah, I just need to add something to the script, because I added a new bat manager. The equivalent of Alfred, I guess. I have to manage the bats in the game, and I forgot to add the information I need to the graveyard boss. So here we go. So it basically spawns the bat manager. In fact, let me grab both of those and do that. There we go. Now it'll work. So now Alfred will do his proper job. And a decent scrimp said, "But in GameMaker, how can you make your Gears of Spaghetti?" Yeah, make a Gears of War game in GameMaker. I'm sure a hacker out there could possibly find a way to stretch this engine to do something like that. Obviously, it's not going to be as powerful as Unreal no matter what they do with it, so they're not going to get quite there, but that would be awesome. Chest-high barrels. Chest-high barrels that you have to shoot over. With a nice guitar riff whenever you're done. And yeah, the Mactonite moon. You recognized it. Yeah, moon has to have shades on it. Obviously, this is going to be one of those things where if you're a child of the 80s, I think it was the 80s, maybe early 90s, then you'll know what this is. But if you are younger, you might not know what this is, but McDonald's used to run these things where they were trying to get adults into McDonald's, so they were, trying to say, all right, the kids are in bed, you can come out to McDonald's, kind of groove with this jazzy moon that's playing the piano. Look it up. But yeah, I'm sure that's somehow a subconscious inspiration for putting shades on the moon. But moving forward. Okay, now it's working. So for the boss ghost, this is what we were talking about. You have to get all 4 of these bells ringing for this boss ghost to be damaged. So to teach the player that, let's see if I can get them all ringing. Alright. Obviously it's a challenging stage. It wouldn't be a boss fight if it wasn't challenging. Yeah, so now I'm able to hit the boss, for example, because I've got all the bells ringing. But yeah, you have to tell the player that's going to be happening. Let me turn invincibility on. Okay, this is the desert level. Scorpions, you can't hit them from the front. You have to hit them from behind, which requires using things like this. See if I can eventually kill it. In fact, let me get it moving again. There you go. I do it the hard way. Yeah, you have to use the cacti bumpers to kind of pin them in place and then kind of get behind them. This is the alien stage. Again, you can't just kill the aliens. In this case, you can't kill them from any direction until their shield goes down. So what you have to do is get them to fire their lasers into one of these crystals, puts some feedback into their shield, gives you a chance to shoot them. That's what you have to do for that. And finally, the Christmas stage. This one is just a matter of shooting the parts off the snowmen. They get faster and faster the more parts you shoot. And I think I need to boost up the number of snowmen in this stage to make it a challenge. But that's where we're at in the game. And now to be able to actually jump to these different levels. So I've got the sprites that I need in the game. Let me show you those. Actually, I should probably show you the ending so that you can see what the outhouse thing is. Let's do that first. Let's see if I can get over there. These are all the challenge levels. There's the ending. So the player basically moseys up to the outhouse, goes inside, closes the door, is first in line. The other enemies are kind of stuck waiting for the player. That's the ending to the game. Obviously going to brush it up a little bit more than this, but basically this outhouse object is probably what I'm going to use for level selection. And the other outhouses are, let's see, are they bumpers? Yes, okay, so I've got a sprite group outhouse over here. So I've got other outhouses. I have like a graveyard outhouse. Let's see if I can zoom in on one of these. So it looks a little more like the graveyard. It's still got the same outhouse outline, obviously. But you could imagine if there's a lock on this door and you unlock it, you're then able to go into this outhouse and go to the graveyard straight off the bat. The desert version is just a cactified version of it. If cactified isn't a word, it should be. There's the alien version. It's got alien words on it. And the snow stage is kind of a variation of that gingerbread house that shows up in the background. Probably not a very delicious place to go to the bathroom, but there we go. Those are the outhouses. For now, let's just get a room going with that outhouse. I think I have one kind of set up. Which one's this? That's that. Room select. Okay, I do have a room select. There's nothing in it right now, obviously. It's just an empty room. So I do need to add those outhouses. Let's see, bumper, outhouse. I think I can just change the sprite as I go. The main thing is going to be to make one outhouse, obviously the easy one to go to. That's going to be the one that leads to the town and the only one that's unlocked for a long time. And then probably as you go, you kind of unlock these other outhouses. And in fact, based on the organization of the levels, it makes sense to go from left to right. So probably starting the player off off screen and then kind of moving over to this one might be the way to go. So let's see, we've got 5 areas. We also do have a secret area, so let's just put one in here temporarily. And let's see, in the creation code, I should be able to change this sprite. I think that's how I have it set up. Let me check though. Create sprite index. Yeah, okay, I can just set it directly. Yeah, and Panabits is asking the question, which is what I'm just working on now, which is why not make all the outhouses the level specific ones? Just because I don't want to have like too many objects. it's easy enough, I suppose, to derive from this as a child object. But literally the only thing I'm changing is the sprite. So I should be able to just have one class object going and just do this. Let's see, creation code sprite index equals sprite outhouse graveyard. Because this is just the level editor, and all the outhouses, the collisions are going to be the same, so I can probably just get away with just looking at the default in the room editing mode. This is nothing the player is going to be able to see, so should be okay. Outhouse town. Let's see if I can remember what I named all these. Sprite index equals sprite outhouse desert. Good. Sprite index. This was sprite outhouse night. Okay, good so far. My memory's working. I need more coffee, but my memory is somehow working for me. That's good. Sprite outhouse. This is the one I forget. Snow. Okay, well, it completed it for me. There we go. And probably the other thing I'm going to need to do is set a variable which says which level to jump to when it gets in here. I could probably even just use the logic of which sprite it's showing and just do it inside the object. That should be okay. And I guess I'll keep this one as it is for now, because this will be jumping to the challenge rooms. So that should be good to get us started. The next thing is going to be doing the actual object stuff. So yeah, Pandavit's asked, like the cactus one, the tombstone one, oh, he's doing it already, never mind. Yeah, sorry, I should have explained that better when I was going through that, but yeah. Just to kind of save on making objects that I don't need to make. If literally the only thing that's different is the visual, then I can get away with just saying sprite index is this. It's about the same amount of work to do something like this. Duplicate and just say parent outhouse, and then just say this is called cactus outhouse or something, or outhouse cactus. And then just delete this stuff. Oop, 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 oop. Yes, I hope. Yeah, and then just, there you go. You'd be able to place it, and you'd be able to change like the sprite here, for example. That's another way to do it. Probably about the same amount of work, but you know, if I don't have to create these extra classes, it creates a little less trouble. Maybe in the future I won't screw myself up. So let's see. I guess the first thing I need to be able to do is to let the player go to that level selection screen. So for now, let's change the logic to bump the player into there first. In the future, may want to just, until they start unlocking other areas, or until they've played the game once, just put them in the first level, and then after that, move them to that level selection screen. But let's do it the easy way for now. So let's see, that should be on system level selection. Actually, I think it is a script. Okay. Where I'm defining which levels players jump to. Level list. Select. Well, thankfully I had a 0 open there, so I don't have to change a whole bunch of stuff. And let's see, current level is defined somewhere. Current level, instead of doing 0, I'll do 1. Hopefully this is all I need to do to get there. If this works, if I do start game, it should jump me right to that scene with all the different outhouses. If it doesn't work, then it's going to put me right at the town with the tutorial. Yeah, and since level 0 is not on the map, obviously it's not going to show up. Yes! Oh, I love it when something works. Unfortunately, I have to change the enemy spawn stuff. It might not actually be bad to have the tutorial here. Well, let's see what happens when this tutorial ends. It might just be because the tutorial is scripted to start if it hasn't. Okay, yeah. I do have to change a bunch of other stuff. Alright, it didn't work completely right off the bat. Let's see. What do I need to do? It's something about the tutorial not being there, which is odd. It's very odd because all the tutorial stuff should be only in here. Like, for example, the enemies. Which enemies to spawn should only be in this script room town 01. So unless this is being called, those enemies shouldn't be appearing. Let's see. Maybe on the timeline it's doing something weird. Yep, spawn enemies. Manager, that's fine. Then when it's done, gets rid of the tutorial. That's business as usual. And when this is all set up and it's destroyed, that's fine. Alarm 7 in player, that's just to unfreeze them, that's fine. Room end, that's fine. That's a pickle. Because this should not be being called. Is there something in here? Ah! There it is. Okay, got it. Room secret. It had to be calling that script, so it was good that we kind of narrowed it down. I should catch up to the chat here. Okay, well, let's see. That's working. Let's move everything back to the way it was. Let's get things unbroken. All right, so uncomment this. Get that back. Put that back to 0. My stomach is grumbling with all the coffee. Hopefully the mic's not picking that up. And let's see what happens. Okay, it should work now. No enemies are showing up. Excellent. Alright, there we go. There's where we should have been about half an hour ago. I don't have any of the collisions set up on these, which is a little bit odd, actually. Well, I guess I need the player to respond to them. So, there we go. We've got the outhouses working. The next thing is going to be to actually have them trigger when the player gets closer. I do have a grumbling stomach and a water issue to take care of, so I should probably take a break early and get that over with so that I can kind of concentrate on this, because if I get started it's going to be something that's going to be a little bit involved, so probably show that animated short. So where we're at now, we've got that outhouse room. Now we need to actually make it where if you get near an outhouse something happens other than going to the bathroom. So let's see. I'm going to need to modify the outhouse object, which is a bumper. Let's see. It does have collisions, so let's see. Let's start a player event. Collision player. And let's see, what can I do with this? I could say bumper level jump. Have a variable called BM level jump, which is -1 by default, and say that if this is not -1, then jump to a level. That would be one way to do it. Let's try that. Level jump is greater than -1. All right. Then do a rim jump. Let's see. I think I have to call my fader thing. Utility fade out in, and I think I need to specify the level here. Let's check that out. Let's make sure I have that properly in mind. Let's see, argument is equal to that. Okay, so I need to get that array, local level list, and then say whatever BM level jump is. So this should start that whole fade thing and then jump to the level. Actually, let's see. Am I going to have to jump to the map? Might be better to put the map in there. Yeah, let's see. Let me take a look here at what the map itself actually does, because I may have to call the map manager. Global current level. Yeah, map manager only works with current level, so I'd have to modify that. That's going to take a little more work, so let's just work with just a simple fade for now, because if I bring up the map screen, I'm going to have to start modifying map, and that's too many things at once, so let's just get one thing at a time working. First thing is just a fade and jump to the right level, so let's see if this works. So what I need to do is set BM level jump out here in the level select screen. So BM level jump equals 1, because the town outhouse would just jump you to level 1. The graveyard one would jump you to jump level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I should probably make these constants, because they're coming up in other places in code too. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. Okay, let's see how that works. And the other thing I should do is bumper. Bumper. Bumper doesn't have anything for the player for some reason. Player runs into a bumper. Should move back. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why the player was able to move through those outhouses, because outhouse derives from bumper. Do I have an outhouse one here? Yeah, I'm not overriding it with anything, so that was odd, because I was able to walk all over those outhouses, so that's a little weird. Let's see what happens when I get near this. Jump to level 1, there we go. All the talk about wine and somehow it magically worked. Awesome. I guess talking about wine somehow makes things work. Alright, let's make sure the other ones work here. Let's see, let's approach graveyard. Got to the graveyard. It's amazing, doing almost very little work and things are actually working. And Sirius mentioned loving grape gummy bears. Yes, if you like grape gummy bears and grape anything, then wine is definitely going to be something you like. If you like alcohol and you like grapes, obviously wine is for you. Got me to that stage. The only thing that's not updating properly that I see now is that the stage number is set to 0. So I need to do one more thing when I do that jump, which is actually update the current level, because I think what's going to happen is after I jump to the level, in fact, let's try it out. I'm going to jump to the level. When I clear it, it's going to jump me way back to town. I'll bet that's what happens, because I'm not updating that number. So the jump is fine, but after that it's going to go nuts. Let's just go to the snowman stage. So if I'm right, what's going to happen is, let's use my secret explodey trick. When you're the developer, you get away with stuff like this. So kill all the snowmen. Poor little guys. Yeah, I can already tell this episode's going to be a hard one to edit for YouTube because of all the wine talk, 80s music talk, and everything else. Okay, if the problem I suspect is going to happen is it's going to jump me back to town after this is done. That's what I'm suspecting. Yes. Okay. So all I need to do is update that current level. And that is going to be in Outhouse, player, BM jump, not in BM jump. Yes, in BM jump. That's actually a really good place to do it. Because what I can do is set that current level, global current level. And this will actually help me with the map screen too, because it only uses current level. So there we go. This might actually allow me to use the map screen without much modification. So if I set that to that, and let's get rid of this for now, and let's try jumping to the map. Actually, I shouldn't have gotten rid of that because I can use it to fade and go to the map screen. My bad. Alright. Let's see if this works. I've changed two things at once, so it's testing two things at once, which is not a good idea, but live on the edge. Okay, takes me to the map screen, goes to the right spot. It's stage 9, takes me to the desert. There we go. Okay. We've got our level selection working. Great. Great. Oops. Let me do this. The only problem now is I can go to any of these doors that I want to and jump to that level, which is not good, because even if I've never cleared these levels, I can jump right ahead to them. So what I need to do is add a lock. I do have a graphic for a lock, so I'll add a lock and make it so that if it's in a lock state, you can't use it to jump. The other thing I need to do is actually have the door open for the player and the player go inside, but that's going to be a little more work because that's animation stuff. I can at least get the door opening, I suppose. So let's do that. Let's at least get the door opening. And I think if I go with image index 1, it'll open the door for me. Let me just check that really quick. So I think I have this inside of the sprite. Image 0 is the closed door, image 1 is the open door, I think. If all goes well. And yeah, Pandabits, it's always nice when things work even when we're not expecting them to. It's always a great feeling. I expected this to be a lot more work. Thankfully it's not. Yes, okay, the door does open. There we go. Probably need a sound effect and stuff like that for it too. Before I forget, let's add that to the task list. It's not going to take long, but Outhouse door SFX. Because I know I will forget that if I do not put it up there now. Just to remind me. Okay. So now it's to do the whole locked thing. I do have, let's see, bumper. I think it's in bumper. Outhouse. Where did I put the lock? Where did I put Mr. Lock? Don't go into the hatch. I guess I haven't brought the lock in yet, so let's do that. Create sprite, sprites, lock. Backgrounds. Oh, where did I put it? Objects, maybe. Outhouse lock. There we go. That's way too big. Let's trim this down so I don't have this worthless area around the sprite. Resize canvas. Let's get it started there. No, not 501. Wow. Whew, got lucky. Got it right to the edge there. Now I just have to do the other side. Not stretch. resize canvas, and trim off a few pixels here. Could probably trim off quite a bit from there, there, and trim off one more. 7, 7. There we go. Get it down to the minimum I need. So I've got a lock, put it in the center, and yeah, Panovitz mentioned that that sprite is huge, even though the lock is just like this big. Because I drew the lock in the outhouse, so it's basically the size of the outhouse with just this big transparency around it. I'd probably have to cut that down in the original too. So now the other thing I need to do is actually draw that lock in the right place. So let's figure out what the right place is. On this, it looks like if I draw that lock somewhere around 27, x27, y23, it'll be kind of over this door handle. And let's see, let's write this down so I don't forget. 27, 23 is what I need. But this object is going to be at 24, 21 because that's where it's centered. So I need to draw the lock to the distance, which means I have to draw the lock plus 3, y plus 2 of the origin. So for the outhouse origin, I have to draw the lock 3 to the right and 2 down to get it in the right spot. And since it's just a sprite, I don't need an object because there's already an object that's kind of dealing with it. I can just draw the sprite, thankfully. Let's see, why am I getting lost here? Let's get rid of actors so I don't have to worry about that anymore. Okay, outhouse. I need another variable to say whether it's locked or not. Let's go with false by default. And let's see, add. I'm going to need to add a draw vent. So I'm going to need to draw self, otherwise it'll just disappear on me. And I'm going to need to also draw a sprite, lock at, what did I have? Plus 3 and 2. Relative, I suppose, subimage 0. Okay, well, we'll see if that works. Hopefully it does. And I do need to have an if on that, because otherwise it'll always draw the lock. So if being locked is true. So if the door is locked, then draw the lock. And then for the logic, if the door is locked, if the door is not locked actually, then do this. Otherwise, play a sound effect. Which is something I'm going to need to add. So let me put that in the list too. 125 outhouse lock sound effect, like jangling a lock, like or something like that. Hopefully a little better than that. If worse comes to worse, I guess I could just record me doing that. So now if it's locked, it shouldn't work. Okay, so now I just need to set that being locked. Let's see, select. So the first one should never be locked. That's fine. In this case, be unlocked is equal to true. And we'll add one more layer of logic after this is done. Okay, just to make sure the lock thing works. But we'll add one more layer of logic to actually allow the player to unlock the doors, because it needs to check if the player has keys or not. Yeah, and I probably don't need the map screen for the outhouse. Let's see, these are all locked, so nothing should happen. Unfortunately, it is making me go over them, which is kind of odd because they are bumpers. They're derived from bumper. But I'm able to go through them. So I need to do something about that. If it's not locked, it works as usual, so that's fine. You know what? I'm sure it's going to be another collision thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that alone for now. Look it up later. because that's not that critical. There's going to be a solution. There's going to be a trivial solution, I'm sure. It's just not coming to me right now. It's not worth putting that much work into it. So that's that. Lock state, now we have to actually get the logic in place for it to check if the player has those locks. And I do have some global variables which should cover that. I've got these things called silver keys. So if the player holds the silver key, that means they can open that door. So then we go back to select. The first door is always open, otherwise there'd be no game. So I guess you could make it like free to play and say if you want to unlock the first level, pay me money. There we go. be a horrible human being. But I'm going to assume that the first door is always open. So if the player doesn't possess the first key, it's locked. That's an easy way to do it. Easy way to do it. Should do the trick, and then do it for all of these. Second key, that means they can go to the desert. The third key, they can go to the alien level. Fourth key, they can go to the Christmas level. And fifth key, they can go to the challenge rooms. And for now, let's have the bosses hold the keys. So when the boss dies, let's have them spawn a key. And I do have a key here somewhere. Items, key drop, X and Y. So when they die, they spawn a key. I think I need to give the key some information. What kind of key it is. Key number. Let's see. So I need to do this in script, actually. So instance create XY key drop var key instance, and I need to set the key number. I think I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Let's try it. In fact, I'll be copying all of that, so drop a key inside of destroy. Let's do that for the other bosses too. Okay, so the boss alien is going to be key number, let's see. One is graveyard, 2, 3, key 3. Boss Cowboy is not going to drop any keys. No, the boss Cowboy is going to drop a key. Obviously. Let's see, drop key. Paste, drop a key. This is going to be key number 1. The ghost is going to have key number 2. Key number 2. The scorpion is going to have key number 3 because it's for the next level, so I was off a level there. By the way, I hope you guys are still out there. Hope this isn't boring you. Let's see, drop a key number 3. Panda Bits, if you are still there, what kind of pizza are you making? My stomach's been growling the whole time, so it'd be nice to make it growl even more. Let's see, boss Cowboy. So the boss alien's gonna have key number 4. So I need to increment that one. And the boss snowman's gonna have key number 5, which leads to the challenge rooms. Okay, and one other thing I need to check is, let's see, I think room manager's not going to move to the next room until all the pickups are gone. So it should be okay. Well, you wouldn't want the key disappearing on the player, for example, and then or it jumping to the next room before the player has a chance to grab the key. That would be horrible. Okay, so I've got none of the locks right now, obviously. Let's see what happens when I kill the boss. Invincibility on. Move this up. And let's just start blowing them up. One more hit should do it. Did he drop a key? Yes, he dropped a key. It's kind of in the middle there, so it's hard to see. But he dropped a key. So that key should theoretically unlock that outhouse. I think it saved my data for me. Let's see what happens. Start. Yes! I love it when a plan comes together. Okay, so that key that the boss dropped. Now that I have it in my inventory and it's saved, the outhouse leading to the graveyard is now available. And I can go to the graveyard. Yes! Okay, now I'm ready for some pizza. Yeah, Sirius, I guess you've been hungry too. Yeah, you were talking about the pizza earlier, so always imagining Pandavit's pizza makes me hungry. Oh man, I want a pizza so bad. I want a pizza to celebrate. Oh, what kind of pizza is it, by the way? Let me just make sure the other bosses work as well. Let's go through them. The other bosses aren't actually done, so they're going to be rather easy to kill. Actually, with an explosion, I think I can just kill the boss. Yes, okay, I don't have to keep the bells ringing. And Panabit said, I have a question since I wasn't here for a moment. If the key is just adding one to the unlocked doors, if so, couldn't you just grind the first boss to the finish? Yeah, you missed out on that. So I'll explain that after I kill this guy. Okay, so he gives me a key. Let me pause this and explain. I do have a silver key object, and I have global variables that keep track of keys. There are silver keys and there are gold keys. The silver keys are for level jumping and stuff. With the silver keys, there is... I'll actually show it actually in the script itself. Go down to the silver keys. So you can see here, there's a silver key array that contains 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I have it designed so that the boss is dropping one of those keys. So like when the boss alien is destroyed, it creates a key and it sets that key number to 4. And that's going to translate into this key. So even if you kept killing the first boss and getting keys, in fact, it's probably a good idea not to spawn keys if you've already got it. It's just going to unlock this one key over and over again. So it's not going to help you unlock the other doors. But actually, that brought up an awesome point, which is to not spawn keys if you already have it, because that could cause confusion. So let's just check if this is true or not. So if this is false, which means you don't own this key, then spawn a key. Actually, I should make this 4. Otherwise, things are going to get weird. And let's do this for the other bosses. Boss Cowboy is going to be 1. So if you don't own the first key, drop it from the boss. If you don't own the second key, then drop it from the ghost boss. If you don't own the 5th key, drop it from the snowman boss. And if you don't own the 3rd key, drop it from the scorpion boss. Okay, there we go. Now those keys should only spawn once, so let's try it. And Panda Bits mentioned the pizza's normal, prosciutto pancetta, pizza salami, cotta ham, cappuccini, onion, and focaccia base. Okay, so pretty straightforward pizza, but those good selection of meat on that pizza. By the way, with your pizzas, are they more Italian style, like are they the thinner style, or are they more kind of like the thicker American style? Okay, let's go through that. 1, 2, 3. Let's kill this boss once. Invincibility on. I should have like a super button that just kills the boss instantly, because they can take a few licks before going down. Okay, so you spawn the key, which is good. Probably need to have that key be in front of everything. So that's one change I need to make. Remind me if I forget to do that. Okay, so now I'm in this stage. Now let's jump back out, start, and kill that boss again. So yeah, the graveyard level's unlocked now, that's fine. Yeah, I need to get that off the map screen too. Too many things to remember. And Cirrus brings up a good point, which is it should actually announce to you that you've got a key, because otherwise you don't notice it's an object. And yeah, the key's not spawning there, which is fine. So let's keep track of this. The first thing is I need to have the key show up over other objects, which means the draw order has to make it in front. And as per Cirrus's suggestion, announce that you've obtained a key. That's another thing. Let's see, what else? Anything else? This would be kind of a bonus thing, but if I could get those coins to kind of spread out a little bit so players could see the key better as well, that might be a task for another time, because I think that's going to take a lot of work with the coin object. Let's see what other things would I need to do. And I do need to check to make sure the keys are being saved. That would be another thing, because I don't think they are. Because when I restarted the game, that door was locked again when I brought it up again, so I don't think it's being saved properly. So, first thing, key showing up over the other object. Let's get the easy to fix stuff first. Key drop. Right now the depth is 85. Bullets also 85. Coins are 90, so key drop should be above that. So let's make this 80. So the key's always going to show up on top of other stuff. That's step one. The other thing is the announce thing that Cirrus mentioned. It'd be a good place for a voice announcement too. Actually, I think I do all my announcements through here. Systext announce. So if I do, it depends on where I want the key announcement to be, I guess. Because there's two places I can put it. I can either have it, giant in here, or I could have it small and down here, because I've got two forms of messages I can use. I could imagine that getting a key is a big deal, so putting it here seems to make sense. So we'll try that. So what I need to do is set systext announce to something when you get the key. Key drop. So let's see, when the player runs into the key, let's change this to you've got key. You've got key. Ah, shoot. it's like how to make this not sound like an 80s like Japanese game, although I guess it's fine. Found key. Yeah, and Pandabits did mention or Zelda over the cowboy's head. That was actually one thing I was thinking about way back when I first thought about keys, is actually have the player hold it up over their head. That's actually a good idea to actually do that. So that's going to be something for the future, but Zelda the key over their head. Because then you definitely know you have a key. So then if you have a voice announcement, a text announcement, and the player holding the key over their head, you definitely know you got something. Yeah. Key found. Alright, I'll go with Pandabit's suggestion. Key found. There we go. And assign, oops, not a comparison. So that sets that to that. I guess I could have just done that with a variable, since it's just this. Key found. Oops. And I'm also going to need to do a few more things here. Visible false, because I need to turn this sprite off. Otherwise it's just going to stay there even after the player collected it. The other thing I have to do is set an alarm. Add event, alarm, 0, which destroys the key. And I need to actually set that alarm, get that alarm going. So alarm 0. Let's go for 2 seconds for now. In the tradition of using constants, let's actually do that. Key message delay. Just in case I use it somewhere else. Okay, so the key's not going to get destroyed until that happens. And I need to add that sound effect in there. Okay. Let's see if this works. So a giant message should appear for about 2 seconds in the middle of the screen after you get a key, if things went well. And Pandabit's getting back on the pizza. More Italian style. We had thicker style for a while, but for the past few years been having the Italian style. Yeah, it's going to depend on your mood, of course, but I guess I've always been more partial to the American style, but what I have noticed is that the Italian style is very good for kind of bringing out the best in toppings. Like, I think the American style of pizza is good for just having a big, a meal, and then an Italian pizza is better for, like, if you have, like, really good toppings and stuff, and you don't want, like, the bread and stuff to get in the way of that. But if you have, like, what makes you decide whether to go Italian or not? Because I'm kind of curious about that. And Serious Yes, Chicago style. That's the penultimate, going big American with something. So yeah, that's my favorite too. But obviously, like prosciutto and things like that would probably be kind of a waste on a Chicago pizza. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, killing the boss again. And if I get that key, it should say something. And the key is showing up in front. Okay, so it says key found. The message is not going away because I forgot to make it go away. So it's probably just going to say key found for the rest of the game. Also, the sound effect's weird. What is going on with the sound effect? Okay, I guess because the player's still colliding with the key, it's coming in here every time. So I need to have something to shut that off. So let's do key pickup. And let's set that to true once the player picks it up. So if key pickup is false, then do this. Yeah, the other problem is that the alarm's never going to go away. Because I'm just going to keep coming in here over and over again, resetting the alarm, so I needed that in the first place. And let's see, that gives me the sound effect, and I need to turn the system announcement off. That's all I have to do that is send a blank string, and it'll turn it off, so that should work this time. And Pandavit said that's true, having good meat needs thin crust sometimes, but I do love to eat a meal of a pizza. Okay, so it's just probably a trend thing at the moment for you. Just going with Italian as a change of pace, I guess. But yeah, with those toppings you mentioned, Italian sounds awesome. Yeah, one thing about Japan, it does have bad American-style pizza in general, but Italian-style pizza, it's okay. They actually do a really good job. I think in some ways, like more than like where I used to live anyway, Japan does a pretty good job of like Italian food because it's big here. So if you're looking for an American pizza, Japan. If you're looking for an Italian pizza, it's good. As Japan is all about like the best toppings you can get on stuff and everything else. So I think you'd enjoy it. So if you do get out to Japan, obviously you want to eat Japanese food, but if you get tired of Japanese food, I guess you could switch to Italian food because there's plenty of it here, and it's usually pretty good. Okay, I got my key. It says key found. Message disappears, and we're good to go. Okay, yeah, the color I'm choosing for that key is probably not a very good color. I'll have to think about that as well. Change the silver key color. Something that works on other stages. Maybe dark blue on light stages and light blue on dark stages or something like that. So those are done. And I'll keep these for the future. Key tasks. In fact, let's put them in the task list. That's what it's there for. So, choice selection. 0.5 coins. Spread out further with the boss. One other system kind of thing. Pickups. Don't spawn a bullet pickup if last enemy, because you don't need a bullet pickup if it's the last enemy. So let's get rid of that. Check. Keys. Make sure keys are being saved. That's a system thing. And animation-wise, just to look at that suggestion for going Zelda with this thing. Let's make sure I can actually do that. I think the player's arms are going to be long enough to pull it off. We'll find out. May have to fake it a little bit. Let's see, front. Thankfully, if he is going to Zelda it, I can always assume that he's going to be facing front. In fact, let's just duplicate this and say key front. And let's see. I could draw the key over his head, so I don't need to change the sprite size. I just have to have the guy's arms. The guy's arms be up. Because it's hard to work with white on this background, maybe I should flush it out a little bit with some other color. There we go. Make it easier to work with. Okay. So right now his arms are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 long. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and then a hand. So if I don't fake things, this is about as long as his arms get. So obviously I have to fake it. Yeah. That's a lot of faking to do if I want to get his arms way up there. Because it'd have to be something like that. And that's kind of ridiculous, probably. I don't know. It's a really long arm. Yeah, I don't think I should do the Zelda thing with it. What I could do, I guess, is have it just float over the player's head. It is nice if the player can do the whole holding it over their head thing. I guess another option is to move the head down. It's a possibility. I mean, this is probably a problem for another episode, but, you know, I'm going to be editing a lot of this stuff anyway, so it'll be a short episode, I'm sure, for you guys watching this on YouTube. How weird is it going to be to shrink the player down like this? It doesn't really solve the problem anyway, unless I move his shoulders up, so let's do that. Alright, let's undo a few things here. Get it all back. And you guys might be giving me good suggestions, so I should keep track of the chat. Yeah, just have it floating over his head. Yeah, seriously, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Put them most of the way with the key being up above the head and cue a sound effect. Yeah, I think we'll just go with... we'll make the proportions realistic. So let's get rid of this craziness. Make the proportions realistic, and then just the rest is the key floating over the head. I think that's the best way to do this, like Cirrus and Pandavits have been mentioning. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then the hand. In fact, I should have it at an angle, because it's not going to make much sense. It looks like he's scratching his head. So let's see. If he starts there, if his arm starts there, let's get his hat back. So 1, 2, 3. Let's go with 3. Because it's at an angle, so it shouldn't be as long as the other arm. And let's just fill this in to make sure it still looks okay. So if he's doing kind of his little victory pose, and there's a key floating over his head, I think symbolically it's okay. So it looks something like this, and then their key would be floating over his head. And a Super Pro Programmer drops by. So what's this game about? Thank you for covering me on that question, Pandavits. Yes, debugging moments. Obviously, there's lots of debugging things. Right now, it's just trying to decide what to do with like an item get thing in animation. But the game itself is a top-down shooter being made in GameMaker, like Pandavits said. Has a pinball mechanic using the original Commodore 64 colors. Exactly. Good summary. Yeah, and I'm just editing sprites right now. So let's get the background out of the way. And in fact, let's save this, because I think this is actually not going to be too bad. So let's call this keyfront 00. And I also need a hurt version, because the player could get hurt. So damage front 0. Duplicate damage front 0. Damage hurt front. Damage key front. Damage key front. There we go. And so I need the version of this. Or is in his skivvies, Ghosts and Goblin style. Boom, boom, boom. And since he doesn't have a shirt, it's just all arm. And then we've got that. And save that out. Damage key front. Damage key front. Okay, so let's bring those into the game, and yes, let's save it. That wasn't too much work. Let's bring that into the game real quick. So that is a player sprite, so I need to bring one of these in here. Let's just copy this one. So sprite player key. Key's probably fine. There's only one variation. I don't think I'm going to have him like facing sideways and holding a key up or anything. He's always going to be facing down, so I can just say sprite player key, and just so it doesn't lose all my collision information, let's just do it this way. Bring that graphic that I just did in here. I think I called it key front. Yes, there we go. Okay, that's key front. That's good. Let's duplicate that and let's do sprite player damage key. I think that should be it. Yeah. Damage key and edit. Bring it in. So let's see, damage key front. There we go. Okay, now I've got the sprites. Now it's just actually calling them. So sprite player damage key. So that's going to be in player. So if the player grabs a key, I guess I need an alarm here. Let's see, image index. Let's do it the easy way first. Sprite player key. If lives is greater than 1. I think that's how I usually do it. Let's check. Yeah, if lives is greater than 1 is the difference between the version in the underwear and the version that's not in the underwear. So that should be okay for that. If he's not hurt, then that. If he is hurt, then draw the other sprite. That should be okay. Sprite player damage key. And then I'm going to need an alarm to turn this back off eventually. But I think I'm just going to test it for now. Let's see. Is there a way to do this? I'm going to have to be smarter with this, I think. I think I'm going to have to give him a variable. Because otherwise the other sprite stuff is going to override the key thing. So, is the player holding a key? And let's call that PL key hold. Makes sense. By default, they're not holding a key. And let's make sure that when the room starts, I reset that. Okay, so let's do key hold. And so in here, I don't have to worry about any of this stuff. I just have to set key hold to true. And then in draw, then in here, if PL key hold, actually I think I messed up on the variable name there, is true. If lives is greater than 1, sprite index, sprite player key. And I don't want to leave you guys alone in chat too long, so once I'm done with this, I'll catch up to you guys. Especially if a super pro programmer has any questions. Although that's a great name, by the way. Let's see else. All right. So if key hold is true, they should do this pose. Otherwise, do the other stuff. That should be okay. Image scales 1. Yeah, I guess I do need to set that in here, just in case. Okay. Theoretically, that should work. And actually, as it is now, I may not need an alarm because the player could theoretically be holding the key up until moving to the next room. But, you know, maybe they want to go around collecting coins and stuff, so it's probably going to be one of those things where I just have to pause for a little bit. Probably have to call the freeze command, pause the player for a bit, do stuff like that. I'll save that for later. Let's just make sure the animation itself is working, and let's draw the key over their head too. Once I do that, I think we'll be good for today. Let's actually get this thing done. So, okay. I'll do my special debug trick to give them damage. And turn my invincibility on. One more hit, you should be dead. There we go. Okay, got the key. Yeah, I didn't seem to do the animation, so the other stuff seems to be overriding it. Work on it. Let's see, player key runs into the key. Set key. Oh, that's right. I forgot to change this. That's why. Yeah, I knew I had that variable name wrong in the first place, but yeah, okay, it'll work now. And I do need to draw one more thing, and that's the key over their head. So I do need to do that. Sprite, draw. Draw sprite, my bad. Draw sprite. Sprite. It's going to depend on the key, so I can worry about that later. Because there's a silver key and a gold key. So if you found a gold key and he's holding a silver key over his head, that's going to be pretty disappointing. And Super Pro Programmer, you actually want us to promote our stuff a bit. That's awesome. I'll make sure to show some stuff once I've made more progress. Yes, I definitely want you guys to show your stuff off because it's nice to see what you're all working on. Yeah, so no problem at all. If you've got a site, if you've got a Twitter handle or something, you can throw that in the chat if you're working on a project, anything. I like following people that are following the show too, so I tend to follow back all the time. Let's see, sprite key, sprite silver key. I think that's what it's called, yes. And then I need to figure out where to draw it. There's only one sub image, so there's only the key image. Oh, it does rotate, I guess, but I don't want it to be rotating over the player's head. And let's see, this should be X, should be centered above the player, and then Y should be Y minus something. The player's about 12 tall, so maybe Y minus 10 would be it in about the right place. We'll see. We'll see. The variable name is right this time, so it should work properly. It should make a proper test. And yeah, PandaBits has been watching the show since October. Yeah, because I remember the timing of when you showed up. It was when we were doing like the like Halloween stuff and desert stuff and all of that. Because I remember, you know, it was you and another user named Quatzquaddle who were like always with me in the beginning. Okay, yeah, let's get to it. All right, invincibility on and explosion button ready. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, there's the key. Grab it. Yes! He's holding it over his head. It is showing up behind him, which kind of works. His arms are really hard to see, so we've got a couple of problems. Key needs to be higher. In fact, maybe the key should rotate, because if it's static, it kind of looks like he should be holding it. So I'm kind of stuck on that. Yeah, so first thing is, let's just fill out those pixels a little bit. I'll do it in Photoshop later, but let's fill it out here. Move this down to here. Get it in its right place. Okay, let's fill out those pixels because his skinny little arms are about as thin as my arms, so you can't really see them. So I need to fix that, buff him up a little bit. And probably his hands too. The hands look a little weird if I do that. Yeah, okay, we'll keep the hands the same. But arms are okay, I think, if I fatten them out a little bit. Hand damage key. Yeah, because the players never really had anything where they're at an angle with their arms before, so lesson learned. Plus it'll help separate his arms from his hands anyway, so there we go. And I want the key to rotate, and let's see. Actually, getting the key to rotate is going to require making a key object, which is not too good. Unless I do it by hand. So, let's see. Draw. First thing is it has to go higher up. So minus 10 was not enough. Let's try minus 14. And let's see. The easy way to do this is going to be to set a variable in here. Call it PL keyframe to 0. And then just increment it as I go. I'm typing off screen here, so PL plus equals 1. Yeah, I don't think I can't get away with image index if I'm just drawing a sprite, so. And I'm going to need to wrap it around. If PL keyframe, and let's figure out how many frames we've got going in that rotating key. Pick up key. Okay, I've got 11, so it goes from 0 to 10. So if it gets to 10, then reset it. This is obviously a kind of a hard coding way to do this, which is probably not a great idea, because if I change the animation later, this is going to screw this all up. But let's just see if it rotates for now. Animation speed. It's probably going to rotate really, really fast, which is one problem. But I'm not going to worry about that. I'm sure that key is going to be like spinning around, but we'll see. And let me catch up a little bit here. And yeah, man looks like he's hefting a broadsword with his meaty arms. And if you wait too long on the results screen, do you get a game over, since time looks like it's still moving while the sun's going down? I should have it stopped, at least on the results screen. And I think as soon as the last enemy's dead, the time should stop. If it's not, actually, that's a bug. So I'll check that. Thank you, Pandavits, for that catch. And what are these hands for ants? 6,000 frames. That'd be awesome to have 6,000 frames for the key. Alright. Get to it. Blow the boss up again. I'm sure the key's going to be rotating lightning fast, but if it's in the right place and it's rotating, I think I'm going to call it a day, because that's a pretty good spot to be in. Yeah, I should totally design all these assets to be like 4K resolution, just for the kicks of it. The key's not no, there he goes. Yes, there's the key. Yeah, rotating as expected, super fast. Yeah, time stopped at least for the results screen. I think it's also stopped when you kill the last enemy. So that should be good. Yeah, alright. So, things I need to do. Let's go over to the task list. Let's jump out of that. Go over to the task list. And more things I need to do. Okay, so keys. Rotate at a normal speed. It's going to take a little bit of work. What else? 25 keys. Player. Only hold the key for a set amount of time. Actually, that's going to be a little more work. So that's going to require alarms and things. So, basically, I want the player to kind of freeze holding the key over their head and rotates maybe a couple of times, then they put their arms down and you're free to move again. That's the goal. That's a game design task. By the way, Super Pro Programmer, if you are still here, what I'm working on, you can always see it anytime over at Trello. If you look for Trello and Project Spaghetti, which is the name of the game, you can come over here. This is public, just in case you're curious. Rotate at a normal speed is game design task. Make sure keys are being saved. Yes, that's a game design task. Don't spawn a bullet pickup if it's the last enemy. That's a game design task. Coins spread out further. May not be important if I get the key looking right. Outhouse, prevent the player from walking over it. Okay. Let's see. So, what did I get done today? Let's see. Level selection. Today was all about getting the level selection in there. Added the room with the outhouses. Have it where that if you have the key to the outhouse, you can go in there, warp to the right level. Have it where bosses drop keys. In a pretty good place. That's that. Pandabit's, let's see, was it Pandabit? I think it was Pandabit's suggestion. Yes, for the boss ghost, having an intro for the bell system, just for the future tasks. Also need to have sound effects for those doors. If you're curious, I do make sound effects in BFXR, which is a free program for making kind of retro sound effects. I need something for if the player approaches the outhouse and it's locked, so a little kind of sound for feedback, and also when the door opens, you need kind of a ka-tonk or something for that. Outhouse, preventing the player from walking over it, that's definitely priority 1. Making sure the coins spread out, I'll have to think about that. Pickups, don't spawn a bullet pickup if it's the last enemy, that's something to think about. And all of the key stuff, make sure the keys are being saved. That's for the future, rotated at task. And only hold the key for a set amount of time, those are all for the future. So today it was all about getting the level selection screen done. I did also get the key holding sprite in there, so fair is fair, let's put that in there. Okay, so that was this week. Next week, episode 48. Let's see what we can do there. Alright, move list. Move it over to the number 3 spot. 4 spot, alright. Work with that. Come on, come on. Yeah, there you go. I'll move this out of the way. Come on, there you go. Alright, so next week, episode 48. Yes, let's see. The key stuff I'll do before next week. You kind of see where that's going, so you'll see all that. Stat tracking, displaying stats. Yeah, it's time. I've been dreading this one. The stats. On the results screen right now, as you saw a couple of times, you get the number of points you got, the number of points you got for having your bullets faster, the number of points you got for going through the game multiple times, like the multiplier. You see all that, then you see your total score. There's a lot of other stats being kept track of behind the scenes, like for example how many enemies you've killed, how many bullets you've fired, how many bullets you've ducked, how many bosses you've killed, but not showing that anywhere, so not much use to it at the moment. So what I do want to do is 2 things. Doing them both in one episode is going to be really hard, but 2 things. One is when you get to that results screen where you're seeing the point stuff, just randomly kind of either show stuff at the bottom, which would be easy, just show random stats, like randomly say you've killed X number of ghosts or something, just randomly pick a stat to show at the bottom of the screen while the score is counting down, just to give the player something more to look at. And then probably something in the menu system as well where you can actually check all of your stats. Those would be 2 big tasks. So Lifetime variables, I'm not even convinced I should do lifetime variables. What this is right now, like I have each playthrough, there's like, it keeps track of that playthrough, so if you've killed 10 enemies in a playthrough, it says 10. If the most enemies you've killed in a playthrough is 20, there's a record stat, so the most enemies you've ever killed in a playthrough, that's being tracked. The thing that isn't being tracked is the total number of enemies you've killed over all your games. Wanted to kind of do that, but not sure how useful it is. Still thinking about that one, so I won't do that, but let's move display stats over in here. That's a big meaty task. And I don't think I'll get to it, but just to be ambitious, I'll throw this in there. So that's going to be for next week. But let me also catch up to the chat before I leave here. And German death metal playing as the key spins for Panda Bits. Yes. Disrespect your surroundings. All right. That's actually let's do something. Key jingle. Whether it's German death metal or not, we'll have to think about that. Key jingle, music, key jingle. That's actually a good task to have. If I take the cop-out route, it's going to be do-do-do-do-do, you know, kind of like a Zelda thing, but we'll see. We'll see what goes on with that. Went a little long today because I went off topic quite a bit with like wine talk and everything else for the YouTube video. That'll all be edited out for you guys. But let's get my times straight here. There we go. Got my times. Thank you for watching our game development show. You can catch past episodes and this one over at www.youtube.com/BlueTengu Studio, all one word. If you're following, well, if you're watching this later on YouTube, definitely come drop by the live show we do every week on Twitch TV Blue Tengu. If you want to hear wine talk and a lot of off-topic conversations, this is the place to come because I edit that stuff out for YouTube now because I go off-topic a lot. But do the show if you're in the Americas. Fridays, 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific, 5 to 7 Mountain, 6 to 8 Central, 7 to 9 Eastern. If you're in the UK, it's midnight from, going from Friday to Saturday, that midnight to 2 a.m. If you're in Japan with me, it's 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., which is when I do it. If you're in Australia, it starts anywhere from, I think, 9 to 11, depending on where you live. Might depend on daylight savings times too. Probably the easiest way is to just check your time zone versus Japan. And if you're in New Zealand, I think it starts at noon and goes until 2 p.m. on Saturdays. So check your time zones. But we do always announce what we're doing through Twitter, so follow BTengu to keep track of when the live show starts or episodes go up on YouTube. Or follow us on Twitch or YouTube. I love it when you guys follow. It gives me motivation to keep going. Definitely appreciate it. And of course, you can see what we're up to anytime over at our site, bluetengu.com. Thank you for watching this show and for engaging in pizza talk, wine talk, and lots of other talks. For those of you on YouTube, you're missing out. Come drop by the live show. Thank you guys. I will see you next time.